Hey, what's up YouTube? It's Rob here and welcome back to another First Cape example video. For those of you who have seen these before, you probably already know what you're in for, but to those of you who are new, just going to show you the basic gear setup we take. This is exactly the gear setup you'd want to take. If you were lower than 80 agility, you can take a stamina to make sure it isn't a problem at ZUK, and you would replace a brew or a restore with the stamina in that case. And for the wand choice, here Kodai or Nightmare Staff is the best, followed by Dragon Hunter Wand, which is only about 6 mil and change at this point, so that's a very good option for a main account. And if you're an Iron Man, you could always use an Ancient Scepter or even an Ancient Staff if you were in a pinch. So without further ado, I'm gonna eat an Angler here and Bastion up, and we'll get straight into it. And you'll see we have 8 brews, 10 restores, 2 bastions, and 3 prayer regens, and you'll see we don't bring a stamina in this case. We are 74 agility on this account, so it could in theory come into play, but we'll see that it's not really necessary, especially if you know what you're doing. But if you were new to the Inferno, I'd say maybe consider bringing it anyway, especially if you are under 80 agility. So yeah, without further ado, we're entering the Inferno, and I'm happy to bring you guys another one of these. This is going to be a bit of an interesting one. It's kind of going back to my roots in the no editing, or minimal editing I should say. So we're going to want to drop a potion to begin with, and we're pretty much going to keep an overhead prayer up all times during all times at this cave basically. And this is a bat safe spot, so this is a place you can always go, and bats from almost any spawn south will get trapped here. That's the first thing you should know. Now, there aren't too many things to talk about on these waves. I will say that this is also a bat safe spot along this line, and you could step here and shoot with your blowpipe. There's one tile out of the bat's range, but nothing too crazy on these waves. You see we just can't prayer range because prayer conservation is not at all important at this point. At least in that, in the case of the protection prayers, they don't really drain that much prayer compared to the offensive prayers. So it's much easier just to camp them the whole time. We flick against the blob here. And we'll just kill the nib, so we're just auto-casting on the nibbler right now, and we're going to go back around the pillar when we feel comfortable. Now, the same spot of our first bat save spot is also the spot we want to kill this blob every single time. So we're going to always come here, and if you make a mistake, it's alright, especially that's why we ate the Angler to begin with. And this is a Phantom Barrage spot. For people who have seen my videos, it's probably a bit overkill to explain all this, but just in case you want a full explanation to everything, I'll give it to you right off the bat so that, later on we won't have to go over these things too much, but especially in the beginning, I'll try to explain every little thing that I can. Here we want to pray against the blob. And very rarely will the offensive prayer go up. We're pretty much just going to pray an overhead for 90% of the cape. If we're in a difficult situation, then obviously protection prayer can go up, but other than that, we keep it simple and always start on this tile until wave 50, which then we'll start on this tile instead. This is also an okay tile to start on, but see, it there kind of keeps us safe, and this is why you want to start on that tile on the later waves. But on this wave, we're on such an early wave where we probably just want to start from the regular start tile. Here in this situation, it's a very simple situation. Bat and a blob here, we just want to step here and pray against the blob. I accidentally did a weird thing with my prayers there, but we do want to try to save this pillar as soon as we can. So we're going to heal up fully and then save the pillar. But you always want to kill as many of the nibblers as you can initially, so that you have as little of a pillar health problem later on. So this is double blob. This is a wave we have to be careful of our prayer flicks here. So if they see you right at the beginning, you just have to change your prayer. And we change our prayer again against that blob. Here it's probably easiest to change our prayer again. This one's going to hit us, but that's okay. And we simply try to finish these off as fast as we can, and you see we move in so that they all clump together. Here we just want to flick against this blob once, make sure we kill these all the way. It's a lot of little things we're trying to put together. We're trying to keep everything very simple here. Nothing crazy to follow if we can avoid it. Nothing too crazy. Not that these early waves would be crazy, but I'm gonna try really the whole cape just to do very, very simple things. That's my goal here, as always. So here, it's a melee wave. Most likely, the melee is gonna get trapped on this pillar here, on the one we're at right here. The south side of the pillar is gonna get trapped on here. We can kill this nib here, and then we want to get back on the melee. And if you've watched my other videos, you probably know this already, but moving around the corner in an L movement like this will trap the melee if he digs here, so if he does, we'll actually be able to show it off here. And by L movement, I mean this movement like this, around the corner. So that's just a very easy way to trap the melee. If the melee digs again, we can move back to this side of the pillar again. This would safe spot the melee again. So here, most important thing to pray against is by far the meleeer. A lot of learners here would panic and they wouldn't really know what to pray against. You see, the bat isn't really going to kill me. So the most important thing there was that I just prayed against the meleeer, and if the bat hits me a little bit, it's really not going to end me. But you want to make sure you're praying against the big monster always, so that's like the major, the ranger, the meleeer. And I'm getting a little low on health, so here we can just do a little cheeky Phantom Barrage. Gets us a lot of health back, as you can see. And here, if you weren't sure, you could pray melee. I'm not actually sure if the melee comes around here, but it does. So you want to play it safe. If you think the melee is going to hit you, then you can pray melee preemptively. And pray range on again. We don't want to really ever have an overhead off at the beginning of the wave. Pretty much always want to be praying something. Here we can quickly go around the pillar, and now we pray melee against the melee. Want to kill this nibbler as soon as we can, and we want to kill the blob in the right spot at that bat safe spot. So if you pray range, you always get protected against this stack of blobs on this side, which is the same as if you were on the south side at this spot, which I'll show at some point later on. You'll definitely see that. But here, we just want to try to save the pillar as much as we can. See, I see the blob sees me, so I'm gonna flick my prayer against the blob. The bat has a much lower range, so you can pray against the blob at first most of the times on these early waves. So here, as always, we can do a little L movement around the pillar, and can save a little prayer if you want to, but the main thing is you want to make sure you sip these prayer regens, and I've already forgotten. I didn't even pre-prayer regen, which, coming to think of it, is a bit of a mistake, but hopefully it won't come back to bite us. I think we'll be absolutely fine. So here, I'm just flicking against the blob, actually. I don't really care too much about the bat. And now we can simply flick one more time against the blob and go around the pillar. So a lot of times at the beginning of the wave, flicking against a blob is the best thing you can do. Until the later waves where obviously you have to start off praying against a major or a ranger. So yeah, a bit bad with the prayer regen. I didn't even remember to pre-pot a prayer regen, which is a little bit funny when you think about it, but You know, maybe it would be something you consider resetting over if it's your first cape, but in my opinion, really not the biggest deal. I mean, nowadays you have so much extra prayer at the end, typically. I mean, not so much, but I've seen even learners that have some prayer left over at the end, so with the new prayer gear and everything, and the prayer regens are very, very strong. I say that as I don't use it for the first 10 minutes of the cape, you know, but it is what it is. So really, just doing basic stuff here. Probably should have explained 15 a bit better, but pretty straightforward spawn, I felt like. So quickly, we'll go behind the pillar, but it's just a double melee wave, so nothing to be scared of here. Little trick is if you go to the west side when the melee's here on you, you actually trap it, which is a little fun fact. Probably not super, super useful, but it is a cool thing to know, I guess. Make sure we kill that nib before it can eat the pillar. Especially because it's the north pillar, which is the most important. A little bit of room to breathe now on these waves. The early waves I had a lot of explaining to get out the way, but just taking it nice and chill, especially these next 10 or 15 waves will be fairly easy until I guess 30, 31 are the hardest part. In these early waves at least. Can send a blowpipe spec just to get a little DPS here. So prayer regens we want to be using every time this timer here ticking down hits 0. We pretty much always want to be, so I'm going to try to be vigilant about that. And the bastions are going to all be for later, so about wave 60 we'll use our first dose. We want to use maybe 2 to 3 doses for 60 to 63, and then basically have like 5 or 6 doses for Jads and ZUK. Brews and restores we're going to use as we need. Your goal eventually is to use as few brews as you can because you want to be not making mistakes that lead to using brews. But that being said, if you're new to the Inferno, obviously you want to use all the brews you have to, because staying alive and getting further into the waves is inevitably going to make you better and better over time, so just getting the extra exposure to the late waves is definitely the way to go when you're first starting out for sure. So definitely use all your brews when you're first learning for sure. And even when you have some experience, continue to use your brews because you won't need 8 brews going into ZUK or even going into the late waves. So just keep that in mind, I would say. So these are just pray range waves, and then I think now is a blob. So want to pray against the blob here while we think about what to do. It did flick early there, so it's gonna want to flick here. We know it's gonna range, and then so what I did there was I just prayed mage until the blob would range me, and then I went around the corner. That's a very good timing to go around a corner if you need to. And here that just lets us kill the melee, or the ranger first rather, and then now we get the Phantom Barrage off of these to end with full health. So always ending full health whenever we can. And if you end the wave with full health, then you start the next wave with full health, as it turns out. So here, we're just going to play as if we don't know how to flick that for a bit, because, I always flick that, and people might be intimidated by how difficult it is to flick a ranger and a blob at the beginning of the wave, but I just want to show you really don't even have to do that. So most of the time in this run, I'm not even going to be flicking against that first blob attack. I think it's a little bit hard. Whoops. Alright, so we do want to drag the ranger in here. It's like the easiest way to deal with a monster in the corner here. So here you see the blob's going to range me, so that's the timing when I go around the pillar. We're just camping in overhead and that's it. Hardly ever using rigor. I mean, you can maybe on your blowpipe specs if you want to like get a little extra damage, but overall not really needed. So here, I see the range died, and once the range dies, the mage is going to attack you next from the mini blobs, so that's a little something to note. So you can avoid a little extra damage that way. And any damage you can avoid saves you time healing in the long run, so it is good to make as few mistakes and take as little damage as you can. You know, obviously easier said than done, but it's just a goal to aim for, I would say. Just take as little damage as you can. So here we just pray against this blob. I'm going to show a very, very easy way to do this pillar stack. Now, the range has an attack cycle that's 4 ticks long. On the last tick, he stands still. When he stands still, if you click pray range, then your pray range will go on the first tick when he attacks again. So that's always the timing here. So we're going to step out. We're actually going to start it on the second cycle. So here, I'll show you what I would recommend. So this is where the blob attacks, and I would say that's a little bit hard to do. But now we can start doing the alternate. Really getting into it the first time is the hard part, and I would say definitely just, you want to click to attack on the tick that the ranger attacks, or starts his attack cycle, rather. Depending on how you want to look at it, I guess. So here we want to make sure we prayer regen as always. Gonna try to really not forget that anymore, especially because we started off the run without it, which is what it is, I guess. That should kill everything, which is nice. Here, if we want, we can just wait for these to group up. Not like a huge deal. You want to make sure you definitely kill all of them there if you're going to let them group up like that, because you don't want to let 3 of them hit the pillar for a very long time. Here, we'll kill the blobs last. And if we kill it in this corner, we can run up to the corner and it'll corner trap that melee bloblet, which is the best way to kill a blob in this spot. Or on that side of the pillar, the east. Any east blobs, you want to kill it on the north side and run into it. So here, we're going to go around the pillar, we'll start flicking the blob here. And now we run in. And this guy gets trapped here, which is exactly what we want. And we can do the same thing with the other blobs. So right now it's corner trap, but we can uncorner trap it by going 1 west. And go in again so that we trap this guy again. Make sure we're not praying 15% attack, because we don't want that on for sure. This is now Ranger and Meleeer, which, see, as long as this melee is gonna get trapped on the pillar, we're pretty much chilling. So if he digs here, we can go to our normal spot on the north side of the pillar, around the pillar like that. So we'll go for these nibs here. Don't want to risk getting hit by the melee here, so we're just gonna step back here, start killing the melee. You want to save these pillars as much as you can on the early waves even, well, especially on the early waves I would say, as I've said in earlier videos, but even with that being said, you don't want to risk anything, you don't want to take any unnecessary damage, it's really not worth it. So here what we'll actually do, we'll just do a slightly different solve. Instead of going to our normal spot, we'll go to where our restore is. And we can just kill the melee and we can kill the nibbler here actually, because the bat doesn't matter. Again, I'm very used to the bat draining run energy like it used to, but it no longer does, so Does make these early waves a bit more chill for sure. And of course we're going to switch right back into our mage gear. 27 is our last relatively easy wave. It's easy because the only things here that can hit us are range and melee, and the melee can only hit us if he can hit us, basically. If we don't have him safe spotted. So here we can simply just kill the bats, and then when the melee digs we can safe spot the melee again. So every wave up until 28 is very, very simple in my opinion. 14 to 15 may be a slight exception, but... The idea here is you want to do all the basic things right, so... Just don't do any major mistakes. Even if you're not playing perfectly, you're missing ticks, you're, making certain mistakes, just don't make the bigger mistakes. You don't try not to miss a flick against the melee or the range, try not to just take a free hit from a melee. Like, always have it safe spotted when you can. So 28, now we're going to deal with the blob again, which... Again, I'm going to try not to start the early waves, or start the beginning of the wave with a flick against the blob. I think it's pretty hard for most learners, so I'm just going to try to keep it very simple. I'm going to finish that thing here. For the first time, we're going to show off our kill the melee solve, which is very, very good. And you see, we pray against the melee and not the blob here. We can begin praying against the blob again now. You see, we didn't even take any damage, which is really good. Took one hit from the blob there, but that's okay. We just wanted to save that pillar. Sometimes you can sacrifice a little bit of health, but you want to be very, very careful doing so. Especially on the later waves. The later it gets, the less you want to really be willing to sacrifice your health to save a pillar. That being said, on any early wave where it's, relatively easy and straightforward, you can just take a little bit of damage to save a pillar. It's not super necessary though. You'll see at the end of this we're probably going to have a bunch of extra pillar health even with the bit of damage we've taken already. So prey range as always. If we're going to take this blob hit, it's okay. We're going to keep trying to finish off the nibs here. We're going to tank a couple of blob hits just to finish off the nibblers, and then we're going to go north as soon as we're done with that, and then prey melee, of course. So we got rigor on, we can send blowpipes back, that's totally fine. We're just not making any major mistakes, and you see we're not even in risk of dying, even if a blob hit us, like a max hit or something, even if the bat were to hit us a couple times. We're still well within safe range here, so... It's important to understand which damage you can take, so here... Want to finish this off? And now we can start our one-tick alternating again. Plugin was baiting me a little bit there, I'm not gonna lie. The plugin I use does bug a little bit sometimes, but in general it's still worth using in my opinion. Not at all necessary for a learner though. And again, we're gonna Phantom Barrage this so we can return to 99 HP. The most, as much as we can start each wave at 99 HP, the better. And again, prey range as always, and 1 minute on our regen timer, so we're going to try to keep that in mind as well. We're going to tank a blob for a little bit here. We're going to kill some bats. Actually, what we're going to do is we're going to drag this melee like this. You can drag the melee down like that. And now we can start one-tick alternating. Alright, so that thing's dead. So next we one-tick alternate based on the ranger. And you see how we don't panic, we just trust in the fact that we can one-tick alternate. And here we don't want to kill this like this, we actually definitely want a Phantom Barrage, because if you're any low HP at all, you definitely want to get the Phantom Barrage off here, so... Overall, a little bit of a sketchy wave, but kind of the point I wanted to prove there is if you just remain calm and know that you know what you have to do, then you just deal with one thing at a time, and eventually you're gonna finish the wave if you just remain calm, essentially. A situation where a lot of people would brew, and brewing there would be okay, by the way, but Here we're just going to get into a 1-tick alternate again. Yes, we're cutting it a little close. And because of that, we're actually going to brew here. I knew I was already in the 1-tick alternate, so I didn't want to give it up for nothing, but here we will brew up. Little trick here, if you have 2 blobs on you and you have no idea what timing they're on, if you 3-tick alternate like this, they will always be fixed. Just a little fun fact. I don't know if anyone's going to be able to use that, but it is a little bit difficult to do, especially if you're learning, so I wouldn't really try too hard about that. Or try too hard to get that down, rather. It's a little bit of a, like, advanced trick, I would say. But it does work, though, if you do it right. So here we do want to restore. I didn't realize we were still brewed down, which is not ideal here. Get as many blood barrages as we can here. And by all means, if you need to use your brews, you should absolutely use your brews, especially even before I did, probably. I used mine pretty late because I was pretty comfortable. But honestly, that's what I would always recommend. I would try to always remain calm and just know, you know your stuff. So know how to 1-tick alternate and know where you can safe spot the melee. And, you know, you can always check out my previous video on how to do those things if you want. Of course, I did a guide basically on exactly those 2 things. So if you want just an in-depth look on those, that's something you could check out. Although this guide is probably going to be pretty good too, I would say. So I don't know, maybe you should keep watching this one, who knows. Anyway, this is just melee, and ranger, which is obviously a very easy wave. And we're going to begin the mage waves, which is where it gets pretty interesting, I would say. So I'm pretty excited for that. And I hope you are too. Hope you're enjoying this so far. I love making these. I don't know how many people truly watch them all the way through. I feel like it's kind of a cool time to mention that, because who the heck's watching at 32? But you know, I don't know, I love everyone who supports me. Just thank you guys for the support and everything. I'm really appreciative of that. So I just figure, you know, I always say that in every video, but I figure I'd say it again. So 2 rangers, you know, very difficult wave here. Gotta keep on your toes. You know, I have heard of people not praying range on this wave. You know, I'm not gonna name any names here. Not gonna name any names, okay? No names, but shout out to It's Jacob. But okay, truthfully, me and him were having a conversation. He told me he died to double rangers, but in honesty, I have died to double majors, which is a lot more embarrassing in honesty. So you know, it happens. It happens. You just can't let it get you down, because the inferno is very long. The inferno is a long, arduous journey. So just gotta keep your head in the game here. We want to pray mage as always on the mage waves. This is the beginning of the harder waves, I would say. Although they don't get too hard until the later 40s, I would say. We'll play it safe regarding the nibblers, of course. And my plugin is baiting me again. Here we can just stand here, so we're already in the starting spot, which is nice. Want to make sure we prayer regen, which I again forgot for a number of waves. We do have one on the, we have a restore on the ground here, so we will grab that. These prayer regens are just so overpowered though that I don't think even with forgetting to use them sometimes, I think we'll still be totally fine. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm sure we'll still be fine. Now the annoying thing about the mage waves is that you do have to deal with these bats, which now you can't really pray against them at the start of the wave, so you have to be a little bit more careful. They usually don't do too much damage. Their max hit is a 13, I believe, but you do want to be a little bit careful not to take too many hits from them. And if you want, it is pretty efficient time-wise and prayer-wise to use rigor only on the tick that you attack here, if you can be bothered. Now, I'm pretty much only talking about when there's like a single major. Obviously, if there's a complicated situation, you don't want to do any crazy stuff. But here it's okay to flick rigor a little bit on the mage. It saves a little bit of time. It doesn't really use too much prayer. Plus we want to save that pillar as much as we can within reason. Alright, not the best, but it was doable. Serviceable wave solve, so we'll take it. Make sure you take a drink of water if you're in the inferno for a while, because water is good. Okay, so now we can kill these bats. We want to do that. And we can kill this because it's frozen in the middle. Always nice when you get one frozen in the middle like this, because it gives you a lot of extra time to kill that, and then now we don't have to worry. Here, this is not like it's not a requirement, but you do want to kill this major on the north side, because if it respawns bats, they're going to get trapped on the south side of the north pillar here. So it is nice to already be north, so you don't have to do anything different. So here I just know I can AFK pretty much and just kill this thing. If it respawns anything, I mean on this wave, I mean, obviously if there's a melee respawn, you got to be careful of that, but on these early mage waves, when the bats are the only thing respawning, you can just stand north here like this and kill a major, which is really nice. We can wear the crystal shield now, because it is actually nice for tanking these blob hits if we don't know how to do the initial prayer flick. Here we know it's going to range us, and now when it's going to mage us, we're going to go around the corner. That's essentially how we do the blob and the mage, going around the corner. Same thing as the blob and the ranger going around the corner. It's something you definitely want to get used to, because you probably will have to do it quite a bit. Peeking at this prayer regen timer because we don't want to let it run out again, even though at some point we probably will, but I'm gonna try my best not to let that happen. Don't have to do this flicking as well if you don't want to. It's completely optional. So if there's a melee and a blob north, then we can just pray melee and kill the melee, and rigor as well, because we just want to give us the best odds to not die to it, essentially, which could happen. It's not very likely. It's really not likely at all, so that's why I do recommend that when there's that situation, but you do want to be a bit careful, and you do want to pray rigor as well in that case. Here, we're just going to finish the nibs. Just kind of easy to do that here. And then we want to go around here and pray against this stuff a little bit, and then when the blob's going to mage us, we can go back around. Again, the same method to go around the pillar as I was showing. Doing a little optional prayer flicking. Again, I wouldn't try to flick too much. I wouldn't really ever advise flicking the overhead prayers, like the protection prayers. Here we step out, we're going to change our prayer now. So you see, obviously I'm not one tick alternating too often, but I do know it for the waves where it's most likely to be used, which is, double blob waves especially are where it's likely to be used, so make sure on the double blob waves you're especially ready to one tick alternate. So here, easiest thing here to do is just kill the bats to simplify. So we can even pray rigor just to give us a little defense here against the bats. And you can even spec if you want. You can use both specs if you want. It's not like you have to save one for anything. Just did an extra prayer flick there. This is an important tile to know. I just want to show this because I haven't shown this yet in this video. This is a tile you can kill the nibblers on the north pillar from, so that's very important to know. It's this exact tile. It's all the way north on the west side of the pillar. And here, I mean, we could do a bunch of stuff, but I think the easiest is just doing this. We just kill the bat, and then we just go back to killing the mage. I think there's one more bat this could respawn. I could be wrong, but yeah, there it is, so. We can do a little chilling. It's okay to chill a little bit once in a while. You can flick if you wanna, you can chill if you wanna. On a first cape, you're pretty much fine. As long as you don't waste your prayer too much, so you don't want to have rigor on like all the time, for instance, but when you need it, of course you want to use it. So in those situations like melee and blob on you, then definitely turn it on for sure. But have to, have a little bit of discretion. You don't want to just keep it on for way too long, because it does burn through a lot of prayer, so just be aware. So here we just pray against this bat, and then we kill this blob the same way we always do here. And you'll notice our armor gives us a lot of defense, which is really, really nice, especially for the mini blobs. So we can wear the crystal shield. I guess the crystal shield is good. I don't know why I haven't been. And then this blob we just pray against. We want to kill the thing on the north pillar first. Always want to save our north pillar. The other pillars are important as well, but they're just not that important, so the north pillar is always the most important. Just remember that, if nothing else. And here we can use another sip of prayer regen, which is something we don't want to forget. Technically, if you want to be really, really safe, you can kill this one first here, because in this spot they can still do some damage to you, so then you can heal off the other one. But it's a pretty minor difference. It's up to you if you want to be this min-max about it. But see here, we took a little damage from those, and now we can phantom these, which is nice. And here I pray mage like I was talking about the other, well, I said the other wave, but it was like a lot earlier. So make sure you pray when you can against the other bloblets as well. And pray mage at the start of these waves, of course. This is mage and melee. This is a bit of a weird solve. You might be like, what am I doing here? But I'm actually just trying to get over here so I can kill the mage first. You can use the mage as a pillar as well. So you can kind of imagine like the mage is the north pillar here. It's being used the exact same way, which is kind of interesting when you think about it. Now you don't have to kill the mage first. I just think it's a little nicer because it means I don't have to deal with a melee respawn, which is a little annoying. Oh, let's go. Let's do a little a little corner trap there. It's just like a pillar. It's a pillar. You say mage, I say pillar. Don't try to do anything crazy like that on the later waves though, or any hard waves. That was just mage and melee only, so I knew I could do that safely. So, don't do anything too crazy, but you can play around in a wave like that if you want. Here we'll just kill this, and then we can start killing the mage. Now again, if you see my content, you probably already know the safe spot here. It's one south of this marked tile right up here, so as soon as the melee digs, we can just go to this spot and we'll be totally safe. So as long as you know this, or I mean, obviously in this case it's not a big deal to know because you could just go north of the pillar and you'd be safe anyway. You could just pray melee, but on a wave with a lot of other stuff, it might be something good to know. And I didn't even do it, but here on this wave we just go here and we'll be safe this way as well. If there's other stuff north, it could get kind of complicated, but yeah. Can sip a restore. So here we can pray range here. Can actually just start killing the mage. Here a really nice, there's a little trick here you can do. So if the melee digs here, then we have to do something weird. But if we stand here, this is already a bat safe spot, and then when the melee digs, we can go diagonal one. And then we can continue killing the mage. This is a nice little trick for a wave like this. You know, on the harder waves, you might not be able to stand here because stuff south might be dangerous, but on a wave like this, it's a nice easy solve, so it's a nice little solve I could show off there, which I'm happy about. I have the weirdest camera angles, I hope that doesn't bother anyone, but the camera angle here makes sense for me because my inventory is right over this part, which I never want to click that part anyway. I really only want to click stuff over on this side. So I feel like this camera angle makes sense, but when, you know, when I start going like this, it gets a little crazy. But so here we actually pray mage in preparation for the next wave. And the mage and blob and melee waves begin, which are, you know, are a hard set of waves, so we're gonna just make sure we stay vigilant. Here we can tank a blob for a little bit and then go north of the pillar, hit this mage. So there's a couple solves here we can... I'd say the easiest is we let the melee dig where we are now and then we go to the west of the pillar. The reason here I like that is because it'll just allow us to simplify very easy and we can flick a single blob very easily, so there's nothing really hard about this, I feel like. This is that. I mean, also you could move to the tile we're on, flick the blob and the mage, and then move when the melee digs, but it feels a little harder to me. So I like this more. Kill this, and then we kill the blob at the end always. Always want to kill the blob at the very end, if possible. Blowpipe sec kind of random there, not gonna lie. Can crystal shield just for a little safety. Although it probably won't matter too much. So here we can pray melee as soon as the melee is gonna hit us. But in the meantime we can pray against that bat, which is nice. We just avoid some extra damage, which is really, really nice. Always want to try to be avoiding damage like I was saying earlier. The more damage you avoid just makes your life easier, honestly. You have to spend less time healing and it's just more fun. So like I know it sounds weird, but it's like make less mistakes so you can have more fun, basically. It sounds weird, but it's kind of true. Easier said than done, but as soon as we can, we want to deal with that, but because it's only one, you want to always keep in mind how many are attacking the pillar. Here, there's only one attacking the pillar. It's not too big of a deal. If there were 2 or 3, if there were 3 on here, I'd be pretty vigilant about going to get them here in this case. But you have to be careful. It depends on what wave you're on. Here, only 1, so it's pretty much fine. Here we're just returning to the original spot while we're flicking the blob. Just so we can... Oh, we missed a flick, but it's okay. If we could always heal off of it at the end here, which is always a nice thing. Always nice to heal for free. So at a certain point in your Inferno journey, blobs become a free way of healing, which... That's when you know you're on your way to a cape, to be honest. Here's another double bat wave, so we're going to make sure we have the crystal shield on just in case we have to tank some. Here we're just going to kill bats to simplify. I don't even really know what's going on in the rest of the wave, but we just want to make sure we're simplifying as much as we can. So here I see another way to simplify. You can just go here, and I know the mage doesn't come around because the melee blocks it. So, you know, I see a way to simplify, I simplify. Really not much, like, second thought about it. I'm just like, alright, I see a way, and now we're going to simplify. We're going to want to turn off our rigor here. We don't want to camp it too hard, but it's nice for that slightly difficult situation there. You know, 47, 48 obviously are waves that you don't want to underestimate, so... Definitely make sure we're prey regenning, don't want to forget about that. And we do want to save this pillar. There's 2 on here, so let's take a bit of blob damage if we have to. We'll just blood barrage to there. I think we get a phantom maybe. Hopefully that dies. Alright, ends up the blob didn't even hit us again. We can phantom this from this side though, so this is pretty nice. Just heal up as much as we can. You know what, I'm just gonna say too, if you're low going into like 47 or 48, I would consider using brew before that wave. In this case, we're 80. I don't know, it's actually, yeah, I'm not gonna do it anymore. I was considering just setting brew, and you obviously completely could if you want, but in this case, 89, I feel pretty safe, so. This just happens to be really nice. So the blob is actually completely out of range, so all I have to do is, when the melee digs, I gotta go around the corner, basically. We could have an even easier wave if we kill this really quick, then we won't even have to deal with the mage anymore, or any respawns. So here, we're just gonna wait for the melee to dig. But actually, we're just gonna start flicking against this blob. Either way, we were gonna have to flick against something, so... a little awkward, but... not too bad, not too bad. So we do want to kill the melee, and then obviously blob's last when possible, so I'm gonna stick to that here. Alright, get that one, and then Phantom Barrage these. And nice thing is we're 99 going into the 50s, which is really important. You always want to be 99 going into the 50s, because those are waves that, you know, are liable to do damage to you, especially at the beginning of the wave. So you see keeping Rigor off for the most part here, and I'm gonna start killing this melee. We'll just kill all the melees. I think this is just the easiest solution here. You could do weird stuff. You could like try to kill the mage as much as you can before the melees dig, but probably just gonna end up being annoying, so like it's gonna be annoying regardless, honestly. So here we just kill this, and then we're just gonna deal with the respawns as they happen, if they happen. You can slightly reduce the chance of a respawn happening by killing it faster, because it has a 1 in 10 chance every time it attacks. So that's actually what the respawn is based off of. It's just every time the mage attacks, it has a chance to respawn instead. So if we are able to kill it fast, that would be nice, but not much you can do about it. tbow does what it wants. So here we go. Start on this tile now. This is 50 plus, so obviously some difficult waves coming up, but so this situation is very easy. This is just to get side by side here, so this is very nice. We just go here. Wave 50 solved. If there's a bat involved, you could just kill the bat, so really the only difficulty is dealing with the mage in the range on these waves for the most part. When the melee starts coming, then it gets a little more difficult too. You just gotta make sure you find a safe spot, and find a safe spot of the pillar to go to. And I want to show something I have shown in other videos, but just something really important on these waves is you want to make sure you get 1 barrage on the nibblers in the middle, and then you always go into this corner tile. And if you go to this corner tile right after you cast, you know, you send 1 barrage, you go right here, you'll trap a thing that's right in this corner. So any monster that spawns here will be permanently trapped. If it's a melee, it'll dig eventually, but anything else will be permanently trapped in this spot where I'm sitting right now. So that solves a whole monster for you, basically, which is very, very nice, especially on the later waves where there's a lot of stuff. So here we want to stand on this spot again, because it'll allow us to get behind the pillar easier. Here you want to be careful. If you go straight to the... You just want to be careful here, because this mage can mess with you. You just want to, as I was saying earlier, is make sure you don't make any major mistakes. So here we just made sure we were going around the pillar at a good timing. Kind Actually, we'll just kill the bat here. We'll always pick the easiest solution as much as possible. So here we'll just kill the bat. Solves that simplify are usually what you want to go for, although the caveat to that is you don't want to kill a ranger early on these mage waves, because it will end up making your life a lot more difficult a lot of times. So I would just say never kill a ranger first on these waves. Always want to kill a ranger after a mage, even if it means you have to deal with a pillar stack or whatnot. 61, not the most health. We do want to start healing up, so as soon as we can, we're gonna... So there we saw the mage attack, and then we go around the corner. Make sure we pick a good timing there. And again, we don't want to kill this ranger first. We'll try to save this pillar, so as soon as the ranger's about to attack, I'll show it one more time. So we want to pray range, we're going to click this, and then as soon as the ranger's about to attack, we pray mage, so... Okay, apparently we just can't kill that, so we will try one more time. Alright, there we go. Took 2 bats respawning, but we finally cleared the pillar, that's what we like to see. That was a chance, so don't do that. It was bad. Okay, that was the most casual chance I've ever had in a video, I think, like, honestly. You know, I remember a Jad incident or two, but it's all good. Mages can hit 0, you know, so you just gotta... Yeah, I don't even know what to say about that. It was a pretty silly mistake, but silly mistakes are allowed here as long as you don't make too many of them or get unlucky. I guess just be lucky. I shouldn't have been so low though. Being 61 health going into this wave is kind of silly. Let me just barrage all the way to as much health as I can. Still not worried about my protection prayer being on. It's not a big deal. Pray mage as always. And we're gonna corner trap this just to show. This is where you always want to corner trap something. And here you see if I move 1 step to the north of where I was, then the major doesn't move, and then I can re-corner trap it by walking back here. But if I go west, then it'll drag the mage up like this, and then now we can't re-corner trap it because we're in its melee range, so just something to note there. So certain solves, if there's a melee, say there was a melee south of the pillar here, we wouldn't want to do this because then when the melee digs, we'd have a bit of an annoying situation. Otherwise, we could just move back south and the mage is corner trapped again. I know it's a bit of a long explanation there, but basically corner trap something there when you can, because there's a lot of situations where it's really good. So that's the moral of the story there. Save this pillar as much as we can. Getting pretty unlucky on these barrage hits, to be honest. I don't know if anyone's been watching these hits on the nibblers, but we've been pretty unlucky. Alright, we're definitely getting to some spicy waves here, definitely. Tank you're on, of course. See, we can return to this, and in this case it doesn't matter, but... Alright, so here, the situation's a little complicated. We don't have to worry about the pillar, really. That's really not the stressful part about this, the pillar stack here. So there's a bat in front. That means we have to step to the middle tile here, the one right next to us. the blob is going to see us at that point, so we have to act pretty quick after that. So we want to step here, pray against the blob once, and then we're gonna step to the bat safe spot. If there's a bat in front, you have to step to the bat safe spot. If there's no bat in front here, you just step out, you run out 2 from the middle. If there's a bat, you have to run out to the bat safe spot, essentially. So, long explanation there, but essentially I will try to show what I was talking about here. Back monster always attacks first here. So see, I off-tick them by moving to the bat safe spot here because there's a bat in front, so that's, you know, the explanation there. A little complicated because the blob was there in the corner, so I had to kind of try to flick that too, but at the end of the day, if you take a blob hit or 2 setting it up, it's not going to be the end of the run, probably. And that's especially why you want to start at 99 HP every wave. So you see I started 1-tick alternating, so I deal with the blob by default. Kill the ranger last is fine, just in this situation, because we're going to end up taking damage from the bloblets no matter what, we actually just can kill them first. And then if we need to heal up, we can heal up off the ranger. So see here, we can just heal up to 99 now. This is the one case where you may want to kill a ranger after a blob, rather. Where normally you'd want to kill the blob last always, but here we're just making 100% sure that we're starting the next wave with 99, which just gives us the best odds. So paying attention to the spawns here. So this is the same stack, believe it or not, so we can actually do pretty much the same thing. I think we want to save our pillar. It doesn't really matter. Actually, we're not going to save that. I don't think a learner would save that, so we're not going to save that. I think it's just normal stack, I think, so I'm going to give this a go. I actually don't know. I don't feel like I've seen this a lot, but... Alright, it ends up being just exactly the same, so usually it only matters what monster's in the very front. Depends though, it can get some complicated situations. This is one of the weirder ones I've seen, but it turns out just to be a normal bat front stack. We'd lose the pillar there, not a huge deal like we were saying. We're pretty much in the late ways now. Our north pillar is fairly healthy, so... Just want to keep looking at the monster's attack cycles, make sure we're staying in sync here. Obviously don't talk during it. Unless you're freaking crazy, but hello. So alright, now everything south is range, so that's kind of easy. We just stand here and we'll pray range. And, wonder how we're gonna solve this. It feels like I've seen something a little familiar. We'll kill the blob first. Well, why are we killing the blob first? Because we want to heal off of the ranger if we take any damage here. Crazy, no way, man. Feels like that just happened. Like, I think it was like literally last wave. Yeah. 56 is, the wave coming up is range, mage, and 2 blobs. That's a bit difficult. We want to be ready for that one. Could heal up off of this, but we didn't really take much damage, so kind of just chug along if you feel confident or comfortable. But obviously heal up to 99 if you feel like it. It's never really too bad of an idea. So hopefully this solution looks pretty obvious. Because there's no melee to deal with on this wave, even though it would seem really hard, it's really a matter of you just go to the side with the major, wherever that is, and you just 1-tick alternate with the major. Obviously, if there's a stack south of the north pillar, that could make it a little complicated, but... This wave really not as hard as it seems, as long as you're ready to 1-tick alternate. Turns out if you come prepared, you're all good. Here, probably best just to 1-tick with this guy, so we're just looking at the ranger now. putting a couple things together here. We did take one hit from the blob, but it's okay. Usually our range defense saves us from that, especially if it ranges us, so it's something to be noted. Here we want a Phantom Barrage, we want to always start at 99 when we can, like I was saying. And tank you're on as always. We'll sip a prayer regen so we don't forget. Rather do it early than forget, for sure. And we want to clear this nib off the pillar as soon as we can. We don't really want to let it stay there for too long, so we can always return to this tile, this northmost tile here. That's a great trick for the later waves here, especially when only the north pillar's live. That's a really good trick to save it a lot of the times. So yeah. Because they all have to go there, so all the nibblers that don't get frozen will always end up on that tile, so you can think of it like that. And even, you know, as soon as they unfreeze, they'll also eventually end up there too, so. We will pray against the ranger. We'll kill the melee, then the mage, and then the ranger here. So kill the melee just to simplify, kill the mage so that we stop any respawns from happening, so the mage is like the next most important. And I know that looked a little crazy, but really just once you know something's fully dead, you can pretty much move on to the next thing. So that's why this plugin that shows me when they die helps a little bit, but again, like I was saying, not necessary for a learner. If you do want it though, it's called ZAR HP Tracker. So yeah. Make sure we pray the right thing. Here we see the mages on the south side, so we can pray range now, and we want to start killing these things because we don't want these to eat for too long. Kill a little bat. And this might look like a complicated situation, but hopefully it seems pretty obvious what you should do. It's basically just go here. Could also fully wait for the melee to dig on the other side and then come here. It's like a couple options you could really do, but here we'll take an easy one. We'll just kill this and then we'll return to killing the major. There, just going around the corner. And we're finally getting to some exciting waves. Not that the rest, I mean, I've enjoyed all the waves so far, don't get me wrong, but definitely some exciting waves coming up for sure. Don't really know why I sent a blowpipe spec. Probably better off saving that in this case, but shouldn't really matter. Alright, this situation, I would say the easiest thing here is waiting for the melee to dig. We're gonna have to leave this spot, so we're gonna have to flick against the major and then the ranger. Alternatively, you could just tank the ranger. So we're actually just gonna show like the easy, we're putting our tank gear fully on, so we're just putting tank stuff on. Actually, we're putting our range gear on because we're gonna want to kill these bats. So as soon as this digs, we're just gonna run to this side. The melee actually blocked the ranger there. I didn't even realize that would happen, so that's pretty nice actually. Kill this bat again, and then we're gonna kill this melee. I'm praying rigor just to speed it up a little to prevent the chance of, well, it also helps when these bats respawn just to kill them, so in the case where bats are respawning, it could be nice to turn rigor on for a little bit. And here I just don't want the melee to dig because it would get a little bit annoying. There's a lot of different things you could do if it dug, but easiest in my opinion would probably be trying to off-tick the mage in the melee just on this west side of the pillar to stay safe from the ranger, but a bunch of different options you have there. Could also run all the way on the other side of the major to just physically block the meleeer, but that's a little bit difficult. We'll do one barrage to get 99 and then save our blowpipe specs for any melees that we have to kill north. So if there's melee blob north, we're going to kill melee and blob north. Well, kill the melee north, rather. In most cases, we're going to go to this corner tile. So we're going to see that here. We're going to go corner tile. I think I can go here. No, I cannot, for multiple reasons. Alright, so here, I'm gonna try to... We actually wanted to bash in anyway. I forgot we wanted to be bashed now anyway, so we bash in here, and we can actually... You see how fast we kill that? That's one of the benefits of the tbow, I would say, over the bofa. Now, do you need a tbow to do this? Obviously not. I mean, I have so many bofa first cape examples on my channel, I don't think at all that a tbow is necessary. But for that situation there, I will say it is very nice to have the extra DPS. Also for ZUK, it's quite nice. So here, we're gonna skip the first cycle, and then now we're gonna... Actually didn't mean to kill that first, but it should be fine. We'll just go here and we'll Phantom. Alright, wave 60, it's so far so good. We got a couple more hard waves, we can get through them, and main thing you should be thinking is go to that corner trap tile, finishing off any nibblers that you can. I mean, honestly, it really depends on the situation. It's so situational on these waves, but do your best to figure out the best thing to do. Usually cast once, and we'll go to the corner trap tile here. There's 2 nibblers on the pillar. We want to get after that as soon as we can. So we'll go now. Here we can go here. Oh, that's not good. Okay, we can't go there. Cannot go there. So now, I mean, it's good that we know we can't go there, huh? Okay, so yeah, don't take random mage hits. I don't think that was a chance, but we're gonna pray once more against the blob, and then we're gonna pray melee. Kill this guy, so we can just do this solution a lot of times. It makes it nice and easy. Make sure you pray rigor when you're doing this. Okay, I almost... Yeah, just make sure you pray against the big thing there. So you see, I almost prayed against the bat there, and that would have been very bad. I probably would have died. You know, let's brew a little just to be safe. And when this melee digs, we can go to this spot right here. So every time, if you're here and you're safe and the melee's gonna dig, you just want to go over to this side. This spot right here. And we can repot, because the next 2 waves are waves we want to be potted for. So you might be like, oh, you're wasting Bastion, but we're gonna want to be repotted anyway. So as long as we make sure we're going into the next wave good HP, that's the most important thing. Alright, so prayer regen, which is good that we're getting that out the way so we don't have to be distracted by it on a difficult wave. Again, might have been better to save that blowpipe spec, but again, it probably won't matter, hopefully. Worst case, we can use our brews and stuff like that, so... Remember, if you do use your brews here when you're potted, you'll lose your Bastion, but it's oftentimes worth it, so it depends on the situation again, but a lot of times it would be worth it to brew. Here, put our tank gear on again, and you can pray rigor if you want. Here, it's a classic case of, sorry this looks hard, but I think this is the best option, so... You know, I mean... I don't know, you might think this looks scary north of the pillar, but I think that looks scary south of the pillars. I'm cool with this. I don't know. Not the easiest thing in the world, but not terrible. And so we're gonna kill these, and then as soon as the melee digs, we'll trap it the normal way we do. So we did it. Wave 62, hard wave. There, it was just a matter of noticing we can off-tick the Major and the Ranger, and it actually ends up just being easier than anything else in my opinion there. You know, not something I really like to have to do, but just a bit better than any other choice you have in that situation, I think. We gotta grats him on the bronze boots, because I usually don't talk in the clan chat during these, but gotta grats on the bronze boots. That is 100% necessary. I'm gonna wanna... Ooh, it's bad. I took a mage hit. Ooh, this is bad. Alright, so here's where you want to brew for sure. This is definitely where you want to brew. We're going to wait for the melee to dig. Actually, we're just gonna go here. We can start praying against these blobs. So these are, when the blobs are attacking close together like this, you can just pray against both of them like this. Here, we will one tick alternate with the ranger here. So we clicked attack on the melee, and now we're just focused on the ranger, because we know the melee is safe spotted. Alright, a little bit of a hard one. Things were not really spawned in good spots there, to be honest. So I'm just going to explain really quick. If you kill this blob here, the major's going to have a chance to respawn it anyway. You're going to end up in the same situation you're going to be in anyway. So here, I'd actually just prefer to start killing the major and once like alternate, and then if the melee respawns, we can just trap the melee and kill it, and then continue. If the blob respawns, we can just continue killing the mage. That's pretty much it for that. So here we're just going to look at the flicker underneath and start flicking once we see the flicker. No respawns, which is always nice. We'll just kill the blob. So I'm trying to think, if I was going for my first cape, would I want to use another dose of Bastion now? Probably not. I do want to use another dose of Bastion right now, being me, but it's probably fine to not use it right now. Probably doesn't matter. I mean, 64 is not like a super hard wave. You can usually find a way to trap the melees and simplify it. It's okay to not be potted for this part though. I think now that we're done with 62 and 63, those are really the hardest waves for sure. Don't like our mage level being a little low, but I'm not going to waste a dose of restore when we're so high prayer, but it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. We have like infinite prayer, but... So here... I mean, we can even turn rigor on. I mean, on a wave like this, it's probably nice just to be able to simplify everything kind of fast. And you could avoid flicking the range for a little while if you went all the way to the east side of the mage. You could get all the way over there and then you could just pray mage. But eventually the melee is going to dig and that's going to be a problem. So I think with that being said, I'm going to pray rigor and we will off-tick these again. Like I said, the other solution is doable, but I guess you could also kill that ranger as well. If you wanted to really simplify and be really simple, just kill the ranger there. Not something I like to recommend, but for a situation like this, it's okay. In general, though, definitely don't kill the ranger early. Can be a little careful with our prayer usage, but at this point we're also so far in that we really are pretty certain that we're good on prayer at this point. Pretty impossible to run out unless we... I mean, pretty much is impossible to run out, and we'd have to do something like really crazy. Part of that's just because we've gone so fast. When you go fast, you tend to use a bit less supplies in general. I mean, assuming you don't take so much damage, but... This is a little bit of a scary wave because both of the rangers could see you at the same time, which you gotta be careful of. Wanted to prevent that stack if possible. Now we're gonna have to deal with it. And how do we deal with it? That's a good question. I mean, easiest way is really to... You want to do this pillar off tick, and you just want to get them on different ticks than this thing is, ideally. If the two rangers are on the same tick, that's fine, but... And then we can just do mage when the mage attacks and range otherwise. I don't know if that makes any sense, but hopefully that made somewhat sense. We're going to try to do that now, so here we go. We're going to wait for the range to attack, and then we're going to... So I check to make sure both of the rangers are on different ticks, and then I just make sure that I'm praying mage on the mage tick. Because as long as that's true, then we're not going to be taking any damage here, as long as I make sure I flick on the right tick here. Honestly, this is a little harder than one tick alternating just because it's so awkward, to be honest. But we do end up successful, so... There, it is probably worth noting, if I stepped all the way to the corner tile, I would have separated the range and the mage. You can rewind and maybe try to see how that happened, but could have avoided having a stack like that, which would have made our life a little easier. Right here, this is actually, as long as you're completely sure this is the double mage wave, you can step in the middle, but you know, better be pretty sure of that if you're gonna do that. See, our pillar is still half health, even though we lost our two pillars relatively early. This kind of goes a little contrary to what I was saying, because in this video, you might have seen I've defended my pillars a lot less than the previous videos, actually. Because I had both the south and the west pillar go down fairly early, which... But as you see, it ended up not really mattering, so I guess as long as you play sort of similar to me, then you just try to follow what I do, and should be good on the pillar health. Obviously, on the early waves, you could maybe be a little aggressive. I actually tended to be not so aggressive on this cape, so keep in mind, I guess, how I played here with the nibs. I was fairly passive. I kind of let them eat a lot. It ended up alright, though. Remember, you can always protect them from that tile north of the north pillar. Classic double respawn. First one was kind of my fault, I'll be honest, but the second one, not so much. So I know there's like a billion random marked tiles here, but this one is the Jads star tile. It's the one like kind of in the northwest of the room, so I'm gonna kill this guy. You can blood barrage Jad to tag some healers. That's one thing you can do. So here, if I blood barrage Jad, it'll tag anything adjacent to his southwest tile. Obviously, just tbow those if you want. I don't know. I just felt like blowpiping, but not sure if this traps them, but it did end up trapping them, so it kind of was worth a shot. I was already getting hit by one, so nice to be able to trap them there. So you see casting on Jad there, hit this southwest healer here, and then the one behind it was already trapped behind it, so it didn't need to be tagged. It's actually still aggroed onto Jad, believe it or not. It just can't heal him from that spot, so it is nice. Nice little setup we got going here. And we want to move to this tile, so we're going all the way to the triples tile. Already potted, so don't have to worry. Just want to look at which one attacks first and then which order they're going. So here, mage, and then we're going to look at which order. So going clockwise like that. And as I always say, you just want to look at the next Jad's attack. So range, now look at next one, range, look at next one, mage, look at next one, range. This is where you definitely want to tag with tbow. Don't want to get too complicated here. Don't want to get fancy. Actually missed, oh no, I hit that one. Okay, we're good. Missed the flick there. Just want to get back into it. You You see I took 8 with a brew, but I mean really that's just like a panic reaction, so don't want to try to let that happen if you can, but try not to take an off-hit Jad prayer. Can't believe it happened again. Oh no. Wasn't a chance that time though because I did tick eat it, but still a little bit suboptimal I would say. It's all good though. We going for a sub 90 first cape? Is that what's happening here? I think that's what's happening here. Any sub 90 enjoyers? Alright, just tag them one by one with the tbow. Definitely recommend the tbow for these ones, for sure. Just make sure you're doing your actions in between the attacks as well. Especially on this part, so try to only move like in this part here where there's a big gap. When they're attacking, try to only be focused on flicking them, obviously. And here, this one's stuck again like the other ones, so it's really nice as well. Same as the first Jad, except there's less healers now. Tag, tag, and tag. And then here, good thing to note is you can move one north and it'll isolate these, so only one of these can hit me now. Now this one's trapped on the other one, which is really nice. So it's another little trick. So moving a couple tiles north or a couple tiles south usually will help with the healers a little bit. So here, always start Pray Rigor on. You could obviously pause if you want to, but just send it. Just send it. Always send it. I'm kidding. You can do what you want, but... And I was thinking in this one, we might actually just send the healers. And by send the healers, I mean don't wait for a second set before the healers. So we might actually just do the healers as soon as we get there. And with a tbow, that's very possible. With a bofa, you want to be very careful about doing this. But with a tbow, it's pretty viable as long as you feel like you're not missing too many ticks. So definitely be aware if you're missing a lot of ticks, then be aware that a second set could spawn during healers. So be very careful about doing this strategy. Otherwise, just do the safe strategy. Wait for the second set before healers. But other than that, this first set we're going to deal with by just praying mage. We're going to tag the mage instantly. Can hit ZUK again, and then we're gonna blow pipe the ranger as soon as we get in range. Send a blow pipe spec to get back to full. And ideally, we want to get him under 600 as fast as possible. And the reason for that is because we're going for a 1 or 2 set ZUK, so we just want to make sure we DPS him as fast as we can. We don't want to spend any time or waste any time hitting the major here until he's all the way under 600, and then we have all the time we need. So here, one more hit, hopefully we get it under pretty quick, although we're probably fine for time, so like we don't have to really worry with a tbow about that second set spawning during healers. It's not very likely. With a bofa, you'd have to be a little careful, so do be careful about trying this strategy with a bofa. Consider just waiting for a second set before healers. Prayer regen, make sure we're good on that. We shouldn't have to even look at that for the rest of this, so that's good. And we'll heal before Jad just to give us a little bit less to worry about. I wouldn't always recommend healing before Jad, but it's a nice thing to do. It really shouldn't matter if you have like a good amount of supplies like this. And you could turn off Pray Mage, but it doesn't really matter. Make sure we get to this safe spot. That's almost scary. So yeah, just make sure you're getting to the next safe spot in time. You want to get a little early if you can. Still at 50 run energy, so that's all good. Don't even have to worry about stam. Very nice. Here, as soon as the ZUK is going to attack, we can click here and get all 3 of them in one go. So that's something you can do. If you're comfortable, obviously you can do that, but if you're not comfortable, feel free to just tbow tag them. It's fine to play it safe there. Getting them all in one go is really nice, and they often stack up in a way that you can get them all in one barrage, which is really nice. So we just want to keep hitting Jad on cooldown, basically, and keep moving to this next safe spot. Here we're a little late, so we're just going to make it all the way there. Just staring at the Jad and what attack he's doing. Making sure I'm paying attention to the audio cue as well. It's helping me out here. So I would argue that 110 range is fine for healers, so we can probably proc whenever. You see, our run energy is getting slightly low. It's not like a super dire situation, but it is getting to a point where this is why I wouldn't completely write off bringing a stam at this point. It's still, and again, I am 74 agility, just so you know. So here, I don't think we max in 80, so we can do that. 240 is where the healers, that's the threshold for healers, so getting quite unlucky on hits now. We're hoping to hit something a little higher. Can't hit this. I think our max is maybe a 75. Alright, we hit a 70. Okay, so now hopefully on this corner we'll proc it. We want to proc it right as the shield is leaving, so get a couple hits in here, maybe 3 hits. One more try. If we don't get it here, we'll wait. One, two, three, four. Perfection of gameplay. That's what you want to see. It's literally a perfect healers. Literally a perfect healers. Just make sure you don't attack it from too far. You see I'm getting close to the edge of my blowpipe range. Just be careful you don't get dragged in a weird way. And your blowpipe specs are huge for this part, of course. You can brew. Whoops. We'll get to the next safe spot. And we're at 12 runs, so we're a little close in the run energy. You can like save a bit of run by walking a couple extra tiles here, but it gets to be a lot to think about, so that is why the stamina is sometimes recommended still. Alright, just don't do anything silly at the end, because at this point you know you got it, so don't do anything crazy. And we got another one, another cape. Another day, another cape. What can I say? But I hope everyone enjoyed the video. I don't even know, I've been yapping so long, I'm delirious, as usual. But if you made it all the way to the end, thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you aren't subscribed, because if you made it this far, then you should be a subscriber, that's all I'm saying. So, hit that sub button, and I hope I helped. I mean, it's another first cape example. I'm glad to make another one with the tbow, because the Bofo ones are fun to make, obviously, but I do think the tbow is a great option for main accounts, obviously. For Iron Men, they might not have it, but for mains, tbow, if you have it, or if you can get a friend to lend you, is really, really good for the Inferno, so just wanted to show that off, and yeah. Hope you enjoyed. There's a bit of an old school one where I don't make the intro and outro separate, so hope you enjoyed another old school video, and yeah, see you in the next one. Peace out.